Hello, my name is Tommy, and this is the Squire Bullet Mustang HH. I bought this for my younger brother, who is kind of a sort of beginner to intermediate level guitarist, and I thought this would be the sort of perfect fit for him, really, because the only electric guitar that he has is my really old beginner, like Cruiser by Crafter guitar that I had when I was a kid. That's the only electric guitar he has. So I thought this would be a bit of an upgrade for him. And it's also yellow, which I know might not be to everyone's taste. I'm not sure it's to mine, but he really likes yellow, so I thought it was good. Everything in the guitar is absolutely stock. I haven't changed the tuning machines, pickups, electronics, anything like that. There are a few things I had to fiddle with, but I suppose we'll get to that. I think we'll talk about the positives first, and then we'll go on to the negatives, because oh boy, were there some negatives. And when I say negatives, what I mean by that is things that make the guitar utterly unplayable. And I'm not even exaggerating at all. There were some things that needed fixing when I got it out of the box. So I haven't done any real modifications to the guitar, apart from like simple stuff you can do at home. I changed the strings, I polished the frets, and then by choice I took the neck off and I refinished the neck. Not because there was anything really wrong with it. It just had this like really bare wood finish. Like it didn't even look like there was a finish on it. It just kind of looked like bare pasty wood, and no one wants that. So I gave it like 6 coats of tung oil over the course of about a week, and now it's nice and shiny. You can't really tell. It doesn't really translate on camera, but it's no longer like a sort of pale piece of wood. It's now got a little bit more of sort of a vintage coloring to it. I say vintage. It's a little bit more yellow. And it also feels nicer as well. It was a little bit rough before when I first took it out of the box. It's obviously got HH pickups. Humbucker, humbucker. This is the bridge pickup. Middle pickup. Or middle pickup. Both pickups. And then the neck pickup. And that's with the tone all the way up, by the way. If I turn it all the way down, this is the neck pickup. Middle position. Bridge pickup. Standard stuff. I'm sure you know how a guitar works. And it just has the 2 knobs, volume and tone. It's an extremely light guitar. Like, you barely notice it at all when it's sat on you. And it's also incredibly thin. I don't know if that really translates to on camera. So this is a Yamaha Pacifica, and it's way heavier. I'm still not sure that really translates on camera, but this is very thin and very light. Another thing you do notice when you're playing is that the block here, where the neck attaches, because it's a bolt-on neck, is very small. Like, compared to the Yamaha Pacifica, I don't know if you can really see, this is kind of stupid, but the block here is way bigger than on this, because this is such a thin guitar. So this is my Gibson SG, and as you can see, even though this is a bolt-on neck, the only reason this is really relevant and I'm talking about it is because when it's sat against you, it feels a lot more like my Gibson SG than it does the Yamaha Pacifica. Just because this neck block is so small that you barely notice it's a bolt-on neck. Might be relevant to you, might not, you might not care, I don't really care, but it's a thing. The other thing about this guitar is obviously it's a slightly shorter scale neck, so it's about 1.5 inches shorter than a regular Stratocaster or whatever. So again, if I want to make myself look completely awkward on camera, I'll show you. If I hold these like bridge to bridge, you can see that it's slightly shorter, and that means that it's really fun to play. And it just means the strings are like... They're really quite bendy, and they feel very loose on the guitar. And you feel that even when you're just strumming, like... There's like a looseness to it. I have 10-gauge strings on here. I think they're Ernie Ball regular slinky, I believe they're called. The green packet. And the frets feel just kind of smaller and... Just like... It feels fun. It feels like kind of silly and like kiddie is the best way I can describe it. So for a beginner, I think this is a really, really easy guitar to pick up and play. Which is why I got it for my brother. Because I think my brother's quite a slight fellow. And I think if you've got smaller hands, or you're a child, or you're a beginner who's just not comfortable with like all the different hand shapes yet, then I think this is a really easy guitar to just pick up and play. It's like, it's so easy to play. It's really weird. I don't know why all guitars aren't like this. But now I'd kind of like to get into the negatives, because there were some negatives. I watched a lot of YouTube reviews for this guitar before I bought it. And a common thing that I saw loads of people say was that this guitar is playable straight out the box. And by straight out of the box, I assume what they mean is straight out of the box. And that is not true. This guitar is not playable out of the box. And I'll explain why, but just as a caution, if you're going to buy this guitar for little Timmy for Christmas, and he gets it out of the box, tunes it up, and you say, "Hey Timmy, show Grandma how you can play Paranoid by Black Sabbath," then in a year's time, you're going to have to explain to little Timmy why his grandma just isn't around for Christmas. She's not dead. She's just chosen to go live with a different family. Number one is the obvious thing, the strings. The strings were not guitar strings. They're not real guitar strings. I don't know what they are, but they don't feel like guitar strings. They're really rough and pingy and thin. They are not functional as guitar strings, is what I'm trying to say. They do not function the way guitar strings function, even cheap guitar strings. Number two is the frets. The frets were so scratchy, almost like they had, I don't know, like just a rough coating of sandpaper on top of them or something like that. Like, you can hear me bending notes now. Right? You might not be able to hear any scratchiness there, and that's because I've polished these frets up. I went over them with really fine steel wool, and then I went over them again with, I think, 2000 grit sandpaper or something like that. And then I went over them again with, what are they called? Micro mesh cloths, like the little, like, barely even sandpaper pads that you get. And now you don't really hear much roughness from them. But before, it was literally like your strings are sat on sandpaper. They just scrape and creak across them. It's awful. I oiled up the neckboard as well with tung oil, which is just what I use, just because I have it around. Someone in the comments will tell me that's the most awful thing in the world and you should never do that, but it's just what I use. A lot of people use tung oil, I think. I've seen other people do it online. I'm sure it's fine. I also slightly rounded the edges of the fretboard because they were a little bit pokey. I also had to tighten the truss rod a fair amount to get it decent. But the biggest problem with this guitar, and the reason I say it's unplayable, is intonation. This guitar does not intonate. Apparently, this is a common problem, and because it's slightly shorter scale, there can be some intonation issues. And I tried for a really long time to get this to intonate, and it just wasn't happening, and I couldn't figure out why. I'm guessing that the issue is that it's a shorter scale neck, but Squire just used the stock screws that they use on all other Squires. So I couldn't get the saddles to move back far enough because the screw would start touching the strings. So I did a bit of typing up and found out that this is actually a really common issue with these Bullet Squires. And the solution is you have to take the screw out and file it down to the right size. But I didn't really have the tools available to file down metal, so what I've had to do is put washers on the end here. And even after putting 2 washers on here, the saddle is basically as far back as it can go. And that is what I had to do to intonate. It just wasn't working. And straight out of the box, it was literally like you got past the 4th fret and everything was out of tune. Luckily for me, it was only the E string, but I've seen other people say that they have had this problem with like the top 3 strings, and it just would have been a nightmare. But after adjusting that and giving it a good setup, you know, adjusting the action so it's quite close to the neck now, just where I like it, the intonation is now pretty good. Like, now that I've made all these adjustments, the guitar is so nice to play. Like I said, the main benefit to this guitar is it's just so fun to play. Once you've gone through all the work to make it a nice guitar, it's just so nice. Like I almost don't want to give it away because it's so nice. So if you have the know-how to sort of adjust things and do like a nice setup on it, then it's going to be great for you. But if you're not a guitarist and you're buying this for like a kid who's like just starting out, then I don't think I would recommend getting this. Just because it takes a lot of work to get it to where I've gotten this. And if you don't know how to do that, then I just don't think it's going to be something that lasts for them. I don't think they're ever going to sound quite as good as they want to sound. I don't know. Maybe get them a Yamaha Pacifica instead. So we'll have a bit of a play about, I suppose. You guys know Wonderwall? Sing along if you know the words. This is just like a standard sort of, I guess, a little bit crunchy amp. This is middle position. This guitar definitely feels like it wants to be crunchy. It's asking to be crunchy. Like, it's just the way these pickups are, and just like, I think it's the shorter scale neck and like the looser strings. Like it wants to be kind of warm. It's strange. So this is just a clean tone. This is the neck. Middle position. Sounds pretty good, I think. This is the bridge. And then I wouldn't recommend metal tones on this guitar. The strings are already pretty loose, so down tuning this is kind of an issue. I wouldn't be comfortable going below drop D. It's really just not made for this. I can't even play it because the strings just feel so loose and weird. It's really bizarre. It's very strange to try and play metal on something this small and like loose stringed. I suppose because it's a Mustang, I should play a Nirvana riff before we go. I think this guitar does actually shine in those sort of genres, like the sort of punk rocky stuff. If you're going to play that kind of stuff, this guitar is very at home here. You know, those kind of riffs. I think if you're going to be playing that kind of stuff, then you're going to be quite happy once you set this up properly. So anyway, thank you very, very, very much for watching. All in all, if you can set this up properly, then quite a fun little guitar to play. Definitely a good couch guitar to have. it's fun. Let me know in the comments if you've ever purchased one of these and what you think of it. I'd be really interested to hear what you guys have to say about it. I think it's going to make a perfect sort of beginner/intermediate guitar for my brother. I think he's going to really enjoy it. So yeah, thank you for watching. I know it's just been me sort of rambling and noodling around on the guitar, but I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next video.